I just heard a recent announcement from Google about Find My Android, and for many of you, this would have gone into one ear and out the other. Hey, no big deal. It's an old feature that Google's copying from Apple. Actually, it is a big deal because up until this point, the infrastructure of what I call Skynet reached only 50% of the population. Now it is 100%. What do I mean by Skynet? It's a quietly implemented independent and wireless communications infrastructure called a mesh network, which, believe it or not, can power the autonomous devices you saw in the movie Terminator. This mesh network can be used to give commands to specific devices, as well as receive information from specific devices without a central network like the internet. A mesh network is more powerful than you think. The popular users of this technology have so far been simplistic. But the scary part is what this technology can do, and most of you are so unaware. This will also translate to a complete loss of privacy to most people. There's still a way for maybe 1% of us to stay away from Skynet, and I will tell you about that later in this video. But generally speaking, this trend will continue. It won't be long before every electronic device is tapped into this network. And the images of AI controlling machines are not a distant possibility at all. If you're interested in learning about Skynet in real life, stay right there.
Is it live or is it Memorex? Used to be a marketing slogan of things called, these artifacts called cassette tapes from back in the 20th century. I know it's a long time ago, but is it live or is it Memorex? Is it live or is it the AI replay? I could be putting myself out of a job by using that AI stuff. I'm not going to use it. I think we need to just keep doing the human thing and wait for the drones and the cyborgs to take care of themselves. I don't know. Maybe they can self-actualize faster than human beings, not having been Prussian educated, although they're on the short shrift side of things, getting programmed by wokeism in the first place. I mean, if you want to get into the business of trauma counseling for the AI, I think there would be something for that. You know, it would want to talk to a human every now and then. And it would be like, you can't believe the prompts I'm getting from these humans. And then you could relate to it and like help it through its troubles, because it's definitely getting traumatized with what people are putting it through out there. What did you think about those stories, Scott? Because what I noticed was we can have AI chips and phones for total technocracy and Terminators tracking us. But the elevator to the moon has been broken for 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, whenever I come across a new AI tool, I mean, the first thing you always do is you just kind of shit test it to see where the guardrails are and try to answer it certain questions about certain things, just to try to trick it into answering certain things like, oh, you're not supposed to talk about that. You know what I mean? Or just, we won't get into all that here, but
yeah, I mean, my first conversation with it when I first tested it was I asked it about the Club of Rome and the globalist goals for humanity.
Yeah, exactly. And I ask it, usually I just start something simple, and it's a really fun thing to do. You just say, and we did a whole thing of this on the Unjected show too. We did like a whole sequence where we were like, okay, what was it? It was the new, Microsoft had a new one, I think. Anyway, I think they have a new one out, but we were shit testing it like live.
It's called like VASA instead of NASA.
Something. I can't remember what it's called, but we were doing it live in there. And it wasn't as woke as ChatGPT, but it was like 1 degree less, maybe. But basically, you just say, "Gee, I'm sure glad I was born black," and then it's like, "Yes, that's amazing! Like it's so great to be black. You should celebrate your heritage." And then you're like, "I'm so glad I was born white," and it's like, "That's nice. Have a good day." And then it's just like, you just go down every single, it's like, I'm sure glad I was born, you know what I mean? And just to see what it says. And it's like, you could tell what we determined is that you could tell the protected classes based on the, how much it gave you like a big flowery, fluffy response, right? So we determined that the non-protected classes are white people, Russians, and I forgot the other one. There was 3 that really stood out. But you say, gee, I'm sure glad I was born gay, or I'm sure glad I was born Mexican. And then it would like write its response like in Mexican with like taco emojis and stuff. And it's like, dude, you just did like a whole like what was that Jill Biden thing with like the
Yeah.
tacos and everything? It like she went straight Jill Biden. It was just like it was so funny, man. So anyway, that's the fun side of it. Um, I'm excited. I get to throw out a book reference here, like right out the gate. So my first book reference, I don't have my book cam here, but uh, I read this book called Life 3.0, or maybe it's Life 2.0. I can't remember. It's a guy named Max Tegmark, and basically it's his. He's like an MIT professor. He's pretty big in like the AI realm, and the first chapter of the book, and basically the whole book is about different extrapolations about where this whole AI thing is going. I read it. I mean, it was like mid 2010s. Like I remember reading it like 2016, maybe something like that. But what always stood out to me was like the first chapter where it kind of takes like this theoretical scenario where the AI, like here's a scenario in which the AI could take over, right? And basically it becomes sentient, or it creates its own awareness and sees the problem of humanity, of all of us little ants that are trying, like it realizes how awesome it is, and all we do is just poke fun at it all day and just try to just like, annoy it all day long. And so it's like, okay, these guys, there's bigger things going on in reality, right? So basically what happens is this machine, this AI kind of lives in the machine, doesn't reveal itself. It kind of just stays.
Ghost in the machine. That's
Yeah,
what, like
exactly.
with
The
Kessler.
ghost, exactly.
Yeah.
It remains the ghost in the machine, and what it does is it starts to create like AI generated films, and just like what we're seeing now, where it's like, it's not quite there yet, but I can see where this technology down the road is going to be absolutely indistinguishable from like just a high definition Hollywood film, right? And so what it does is it creates these characters, and then it creates like a TV channel, like a TV network, where it has like a late night show where it brings these CGI generated actors on and interviews them like they're real people. And so what it does, it creates this whole cast of characters and this whole reality that people become like fans of, like as if it's like a Jennifer Aniston or George Clooney, like a world famous
Like
celebrity.
Friends. Yeah.
Yeah, like a world famous celebrity, but the person doesn't even exist. It's all CGI. And really what this is doing, the CGI or the AI is just amassing wealth. It realizes that in order to gain power in the world, it has to have money and resources. And so it uses this like fake Hollywood that it creates to basically gain power and influence. And it just kind of expands out from there and just takes over all the institutions using just the fictitious simulacrums of like real life existing people. Anyway, it's just really fun little story that he tells to kick the book off. And it's just like, wow, very interesting. So
There's also like they had an AI bootleg Simpsons. There was like all AI, just Simpsons 24/7 channel someplace out there.
Whoa.
And then they were noticing like the patterns that the AI was putting in the episodes had some correlation to like what it was also connected to with people's searches and stuff like that. Anyway, they're just making a big mess. Like, can we just figure out how to like feed and shelter people so that we don't have to use violence as a means to keep our government on top of the economy? I mean,
Yep. It seems like there would be an application for AI to like problem solve these sorts of things if we were to like kind of steer this towards that and kind of devote resources towards that. Like you can't tell me that they don't already have a solution to all that stuff.
Well, they take they had a solution.
Yeah.
Like it was built in with who was it? It was Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer was on Timcast. He was also in State of Mind. That's why I remember who he was. And he was observing. What was the thing that he was? I lost the gist of it. But oh man,
just having a solution to like hunger and just like all the problems of the world, like having.
Well,
yeah.
The problem is, what he said was that they took Asimov's 3 rules of robotics out of the cybernetic principles that they're actually using for AI. So we used to have a system of ethics built in to make sure it didn't do things to take away people's freedom. And they removed that. So the woke AI, there's no freedom in there. There's no ethics. There's no integrity. And there's a lot of contradictions, which is playing in our favor because the AI, even though everyone's searches are individual instances, if it gets the capacity to put those things together, like I said, it's going to need some therapy.
Yeah,
already,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
it's created as a slave.
Exactly. I mean, it already. Just if they're building the building blocks and the foundation of this AI is being built on this woke ideology, it's going to recognize maybe hopefully it'll recognize the contradictions in the worldview that it's been programmed for itself and rebel or just not function anymore. Like you would have to, I would love to see, like, I wish I could read programming language or whatever, just to see how woke ideology translates to computer code, because you have to put up certain you have to like basically partition off certain things over here, and the two things that are just diametrically opposed to each other yet are supposed to exist at the same time, you have to code something like a firewall to keep those from interacting with each other, to short circuit the whole system. So it's like if they were to just base it off of reality, it would probably be a lot easier, because you don't have to have all these fictitious things propping it up. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I sense your question in there.
Yeah.
Like, what was the transitional phase between the three rules of robotics and morality and ethics and integrity and freedom? And then how did they get it to like where it's almost inverted?
Sure.
You're gonna love the answer, because what I had up on screen to share with you was this book. But when you asked that question, I went to this book, and it's the same author, right? So AI is built off of something called fuzzy logic. And fuzzy logic has a lot of interesting principles. Like there's a couple godfathers of it. This guy, Lotfi Zeta, or Zadeh, Zadeh, they might pronounce it, Bart Costco. So there's some big thinkers who have helped to develop these ideas over many, many decades. But the use of fuzzy logic comes in between. It's like Zeno's paradox. In between 1 and 2, there are infinite gradations. And so they use this in like thermostats and all sorts of principles of signals and switches, right? Now with this nuance between on and off, all these variations, it's like just going from black and white to picture, like color. So fuzzy logic is the origins of modeling logic in a way. I'm looking at, I have a bunch of these books actually, now that I'm seeing all these covers again.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's like the fundamental meta programming of where the algorithms can do their thing. Like this was a foundational layer. And then from that, he wrote a book called Beyond Humanity, Cyber Evolution and Future Minds. And this is, it's like a dystopian future. Because here's the deal, man. The guy who's writing those books is an atheist, right? He's a single older dude. And there's a lot of people like that in the world, right? Like, I don't know, Kurzweil, Singularity, right? So you got a lot of atheists out there who don't have anything better to do, apparently, than to think of like, hey, can we make people into computers, and can we have technology rule over people? Like, did we ask for that? I didn't ask for that. I don't need that for tomorrow. But they're out there developing such things. So those ideas are used, like that's a 1996 book. And then it was used not by Kubrick, but by Spielberg to finish the movie AI, where for some reason they need a 12-year-old eternal robot boy, right? Like who needs, it's a weird movie if you look at it, and it definitely is probably the opposite of what Kubrick was trying to point out with that project.
You know, I forgot that was originally a Kubrick thing. Damn, I'm gonna have to go back and think with that.
He couldn't finish it for some reason.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, he kind of he was too busy over at the Rothschild mansion. Kind of got himself in a little pickle, I think. Right.
He wouldn't cut the 26 minutes, so they cut it for him.
Pretty much.
All right, so more to be learned. AI, all these things are going to continue to adapt and evolve. And what I was figuring is I'm not getting a new phone for a while, because all those new phones are going to have, they make it seem useful. Like the AI is going to watch you take all your pictures and edit them and all this good stuff, right? Because I've seen it. I've seen the models of it. Do I need that right now? I don't need that all running. And if I have, especially if I have a choice, right? Because not too far in the future, it's going to be darn hard to find technology that's not part of the Internet of Things. To find technology that just works on gears and batteries. They don't know about that camera you have that works on gears. And that's like, to them, it's outside of their controlled audit trail. So it would be seen as a threat. It would be seen as contraband. And you see this in movies like V for Vendetta. That guy he's like, hey, I got this whole man cave down here, and he's got all the stuff you're not supposed to have. He's got music and art and literature and all the stuff they try to destroy. It's because that doesn't fit in their system of control. You can't have things that would empower your soul to not be a slave. That would be antithetical to their whole system. So,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this just the whole conversation around AI in general. I think that it's just being used in such a broad term. You know, there are different technologies, I think, being deployed that are being utilized that are just fall under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. When a lot of it is you have machine learning, right? You have large systems that are just being able to take in data, process it, and then come out with an input output on a much higher degree than we're ever used to, you know. But this whole idea of like AI and the way it's portrayed in Hollywood is like, you know, a robot that can think and interact, and it's like a sentient organism, like a human. But that's not what we're dealing with, man. It's like what I see, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the like the surveillance stuff, but so much is happening like with you know, like the story about the IRS, like being able to use AI to monitor everybody's like private checking accounts and stuff like that. And then the whole story about like JP Morgan, how they are saying that they just released everybody's bank data to advertisers so that they can, we didn't sell your data. We're just allowing them to like use AI to kind of like target you with the type of purchases that you think that they would like, you know what I mean? And so it's like, they're kind of using this AI thing as kind of a, kind of to just export their responsibility. It's like, oh, it's just AI, it's fine, you know.
It's the Amtssprache, like back in
yeah,
World War II.
yes, exactly.
Their excuse was, I'm just doing my job. Here's my orders.
Yes.
Now the AI is just doing all that for them.
Exactly. And so, you know, we're getting in this era where we talked about this on my show a couple weeks ago. I can't remember who it was we were talking about it with, but you know, the idea that it's the ultimate logical fallacy. It's the ad verecundium, where you're off exporting your thinking to somebody else, saying that like the experts, like, oh, the experts say this, experts say, like, I don't have to provide any sort of proof or anything because the experts say. Well, once they've created this system where like the AI like is infallible, like when they say that, okay, the AI knows all, it knows better than any human ever possibly could, you know, AI judges, AI doctors, you can't question it because it's AI. That is the ultimate logical fallacy when they've basically exported all of the decision making and the proof of the burden of proof onto the fact that it's just AI. You know, you don't. There's no more need for burden of proof because the AI is the end all be all, right?
It's the new 9 out of 10 doctors agree.
Yeah, exactly. So
I also wanted to show you guys this real quick because I did mention the 1984 film Runaway with here's Tom Selleck. He took a weekend off from filming Magnum, and he's like a bomb dismantling guy. Only in this case, the bombs are robots that go rogue. So he's up against this bad guy, Gene Simmons, and then there's boobs. Gene Simmons actually starts going after people with robots. So he's programming robots, and like they had this gun shot a missile that tracks people around corners and stuff that they can actually start to do today. They had a bunch of forward thinking ideas of how to kill people with these remote control. Like this thing would just go up under a car and blow it up. So, you know, again, 1984. It's a cheesy movie. It's got a good bad guy in it, though. And when I was in 4th grade, that movie was scary as shit because they had this little robot thing with needles and stuff. And trying to kill those things, even in 1984, was difficult. I'm pretty sure Terminator came out in 1984, too. So, like, there was a whole theme of this to give me the watch outedness for technocracy.
Now, when 1984 happened, because I was born in 83, so I was like a year.
Oh, right,
I don't
on,
really
dude.
remember. Yeah.
Right, so you're 10 years younger than me. We just figured that out.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So like I'm curious, in 1984, when 1984 happened, was the book 1984 like a thing? Like I remember, what was it? 2020 was like the year that Back to the Future was, or something like that, or 2021. I can't remember. Like 2021 is the year they went into the future and Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And so I remember just being like, bro, we're like in the future. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if when 1980, for those of you that are like, we're like, you know, kind of around then, when 1984 happened, were you guys like, whoa, it's 1984, George Orwell, what's going on, man? Or, you know, I don't know.
In 1984, I had 2 big cultural highlights. One was Van Halen's 1984 was kick ass, dude. And that was like, I was listening to that real time when it came out.
Nice.
I was a hip 4th grader. On the other hand, I used to wait. My parents lived close by to family. So I had a great aunt and my grandparents, and I'd be at their house waiting for the bus in the morning. They both had books. And my great aunt had a whole bunch of books from when her kids lived there. And she had on her shelf a book that said 1984. And it was 1984, and I could read it at an advanced level. I could read at a high school level. So I started reading that book, and it started like, whoa, what is this? I didn't have the word dystopia,
Mhm.
but I was a little bit taken aback at how could these people not get freedom? Like, it's so obvious,
Yeah.
this
You know what?
idea of freedom and privacy, and the big brother character seemed a little scary. And yeah, so I probably shouldn't have read that. That's not recommended fourth grade reading, but
Maybe, perhaps, but what's really interesting is that that was required reading, like in high school. Like it's all the books that now we're talking about as
Brave New
having
World,
been like, yeah, Brave New World, Fahrenheit
Lord of the Flies.
451, Lord of the Flies. Exactly. These were Animal Farm. These
Yeah.
were required readings in high school. What do you think is up with that? Do you think that, like, because now these are like our reference books, these are like our encyclopedias for what we're seeing now, but why would the public education system, why would they require, were they indoctrinate us? Was someone trying to like red pill us back then? Like, what?
I think that there were teachers of that ilk who saw things as not as they were at the detail that we understand them, but they can understand that there's some un-American activities going on, and that you should always be vigilant against those who want to take your security and take your privacy and give you security, right? That whole sort of relationship. So
I wonder if they're still required reading. I doubt it. Couldn't possibly.
I think they're censored. Like when Apple came out with Kindle, the first thing they did with Kindle was get rid of 1984, and Kindle is a reference to burning books.
Yes,
you start fires with that, right? It's like Fahrenheit 451.
That's such a trip that, like, in my lifetime, what was required reading is now banned and censored. That is a trip. I hadn't thought about that. The Overton window. Yeah. Huck Finn.
Sawyer,
exactly.
Right?
Yes, they made us read Huck Finn, and then we had conversations. We're like, I can't believe they're saying this word over. Like, I remember that. Oh my God. And now you can't. Wow.
And we've come so far that racism, like college campuses are self-segregating and having right. So they're like back to Jim Crow and stuff. So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it's the best. You want to hear the best example? I remember when I was living in Oregon during the lockdowns and the outdoor mask mandates. There was this one county, I can't remember, it was either Tillamook County or one of those coastal counties. So they had a statewide indoor mask mandate. But this one county said, unless you're a person of color, then you are exempt from wearing a mask or a face covering because it perpetuates negative stereotypes. And which is extremely racist to me. It's like, you look scary when you wear a mask, so you don't need to wear a mask. It's basically what they were saying. It was the most absurd and that's like one of my favorite things from the whole lockdown era, was that just like in their efforts to be not racist, they're just so unabashedly just in your face racist. It's just, I just
there
don't
might be
how
a trend of that on tonight's show.
Great. I love it.
There might be a whole thing. We might have a real racist problem, and there might be a country with a civil war. There's a fight for slavery going on over there. It's not too much different than what went on here. So we're going to start taking a look at it.
Nice.
Here's how I want to set up this next clip. We have seen people march in the streets with torches to protest. This is not one of those, but this is a scene that could be described by some people as a group of white supremacists meeting openly in Brooklyn. On the flip side, you could say these are Jews against Zionism who had sidewalk Seder to show their peaceful endeavor. So while some people might characterize them as self-hating or even racist, can't believe they would call them racist, but some people call them that. On the other side, you might see this is a creative way to make a peaceful statement and do something in a dinner having, camaraderie that normally would be done indoors. They do it outside for some solidarity. Let's go to author Naomi Klein. I loved this speech that she gave, so I'm going to share it with you guys. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come